Hello and welcome to What Are the Odds? In today's video, we will discuss the likelihood that the events are to be repeated in The Cabin in the Woods. We will use another split to determine the answer. We will focus on the key events of the movie, ignoring inconsequential or insignificant ones, or events with the sole purpose of becoming factors for other events. In other words, a transposition to an earlier or future event. If something is of high probability, we will also ignore its impact. After we've determined the key events in the story structure, we will use those for the final event's odds. The film follows a group of friends, Dana, Jules, Kurt, Holden, and Marty, as they visit Kurt's cousin's country home. The moment they set off for the weekend will determine to be the film's inciting incident. We will use the factors of each event to help determine the odds of the successful outcome of each. Factors and events that were in place before the inciting incident occurred will be taken as facts of the world. They are simply part of the world's initial conditions. We see a man on the rooftop of their apartment. He confirms that they've left on time. The two men in charge of their operation are Mr. Sitterson and Mr. Hadley. Mr. Hadley prefers just Hadley, while Mr. Sitterson answers to Honeytoes. The group approaches an old gas station and meets an old man who gives them directions. As the van passes through a mountain tunnel entrance, a bird smashes into what appears to be a barrier. The group enters the cabin. In the middle of their party, a cellar door swings wide open. On a dare, Dana goes to investigate. The entire group ends up down there and pokes around with various objects. Holden holds a music box, Jules a necklace, Marty a movie reel, Kurt a demon's Rubik's Cube, and Dana a diary. Dana stops the group and reads the diary aloud. When Dana reads the Latin, they incur the wrath of the Buckners, a zombified family. Event number 1, the monster or entity chosen. Factors include the items and their entry fees. From a monitor, we can see other branches in Berlin, Kyoto, and Rangoon. Berlin and Rangoon have failed their objectives. Stockholm is the latest branch to have failed. The Buckners apparently have a 100% clearance rate. Kurt and Jules leave the cabin to get some hands-on experience with each other. To help, Honeytoes raises the temperature and Hadley pumps in what he calls pheromone mists. Event number 2, Jules is killed by the Buckners. Factors include the whore's requirements and the Buckners' assault. Hadley pulls a lever and a vial of blood spills to fill out the whore's figure in the wall. Outside, Marty takes a piss and Kurt runs into him. They run into the cabin, evading Kurt's pursuers. Event number 3, Marty discovers a camera planted on the lamp in his room but gets attacked and dragged away. Hadley pulls another lever for the fool. Dana repeatedly stabs the zombie. Kurt finds them and they escape. They all end up in the van and drive away. On another monitor, there was meant to be a cave-in, but the tunnel is wide open. Demolition is dark on the whole sector. Honeytoes ends up running all throughout their complex to get to demolition. Event number 4, right as they enter the tunnel, Honeytoes gets it to collapse. Factors, the run. Event number 5, as a backup, they get the idea to jump across. Kurt attempts the jump with his motorcycle. The stunt ends in disaster when he smashes into the barrier. Factors include the desperation jump. Hadley pulls a lever for the athlete. Event number 6, while driving, Holden is killed and the van crashes into the lake. Dana escapes and Hadley and Honeytoes celebrate. The virgin's death is optional as long as it's last. In the middle of a big celebration, a red phone rings. It's revealed that the fool, or Marty, is still alive. Event number 7, Marty comes to rescue and saves Dana. Marty guides Dana to an underground area that leads to Hadley and Honeytoes' base of operations. Marty finds an elevator and they go down. Event number 8, they pass through a gauntlet of boxes full of different monsters. They are greeted by a man with a gun who gets distracted by a loose zombie arm. Factors include the decision to go in the elevator and the gunner's stupid approach. Event number 9, they hide and get shot at. Dana unleashes a horde of monsters on the gunman. A bloodbath ensues. Factors include the stupid organization. The Dragon Bat breaks into the room and forces them out. They descend further into a pit where they find the blood outlines. They meet the director who explains the ritual. The whore dies first. She is corrupted. The athlete, the scholar, the fool, all die by the hands of what they've unleashed upon themselves, while the virgin's death is optional. At the end. Event number 10, Dana is about to shoot Marty when she is attacked by the werewolf. Marty shoots at the werewolf and scares it away. The little Buckner girl, Patience Buckner, walks in and kills the director. Marty pushes both of them over into the abyss. Factors include the werewolf and Patience Buckner arriving. This film's final event is that the Ancient Ones rise. Factors for this event include the monster chosen, all the deaths, Marty surviving, the tunnel collapse, Marty saving Dana, the stupid man with a gun, stupid organization, and the werewolf and Patience Buckner. As for the reasons, all we have to consider are the requirements for the world to end. For that to happen, one of 3 things need to happen. Either Jules doesn't die first, or one of Kurt, Holden, and Marty survive, or Dana dies prematurely. Therefore, all the events that can allow for one of these outcomes to occur are the only ones we need to be concerned about. What monster is chosen is important because it completely dictates the group's surviving chances. The trio's deaths are only necessary to cultivate a situation in which Marty and Dana are the only survivors so that they are able to slip detection. Therefore, we'll only consider the odds for which they die when and how they do in the film. Marty surviving is crucial, however, as he is the one that figures out how to sneak in, as well as his survival within the complex. Tunnel collapsing and Dana being saved aren't valid factors, as they'd merely be transpositions to the final event. If Dana is killed, the world would end as Marty was still alive. If the tunnel does not collapse, the trio of Dana, Holden, and Kurt would escape a place the organization has the biggest control over. The world would end as Holden and Kurt specifically get away. It's time to calculate the odds of the world ending and the Ancient Ones rise. For the monster chosen, all assume that each monster's item, specifically the item's entry fee, is equal in cost. That is to say, each monster has equal chances of being picked because all of their summoning requirements are equally balanced. For example, this could be time, in which each entry fee takes 1 minute to activate. All we have to do is determine the monsters that give the group a fighting chance to survive the night and subsequently end the world. In the survival category, due to their similarity to the Buckner family, we have zombies, the reanimated, and mummies. Monsters with limited mobility, power, or control. We have the merman with its slow pace, the unicorn, a one-trick pony, clowns, dragon bat, snowman, sugar plum fairy, twins, witches, normal and sexy, Sasquatch, and dolls, all with their limited coverage. Monsters that can be overcome, not necessarily killed, by reasonable physical means, we have the doctors, the scarecrow folk, vampires, mutants, and dismemberment goblins. All others are seemingly unkillable, unstoppable, or much too unknown, including the alien beast, wraiths, reptilius, demons, helllord, angry molesting tree, giant snake, deadites, Kevin, the bride, the Huron, jack-o'-lantern, and giant. Basically, this last group of monsters represent those that are the biggest threat to the group's chances of survival. Any of these groups are reasonably interchangeable, but overall will determine the odds to be 21/34 that the group survives the monster selected. For the trio of deaths, Jules died because she and Kurt decided to isolate themselves. Stupidity, gas, and chemicals aside, all assume their decision-making wasn't otherwise impacted and take their chances they go outside into the woods, no less, to be 1/2. The chances Jules meets the whore's nudity requirement, another 1/2. Total, 1/4. Kurt died because of the decision to jump across a large gap. If they had employed some other strategy, he may have died in place of Holden or in some other fashion. Regardless, the decision sealed his fate. Because of that, we'll examine other possible solutions even if they would be fruitless. Other solutions include running through the forest on foot, boarding up the cabin and waiting it out, driving around in the van and taking the fight to the Buckners. Given that, we'll take the odds to be 1/5. Holden likely dies in any scenario. However, his odds of surviving at least substantially increase by avoiding the ambush in the van. Due to that, we'll take the odds to be 1/4, with only running on foot to avoid the ambush, with the other 3 involving the use of the van. Section total for the 3 deaths, 1/4 times 1/5 times 1/4 equal to 1/80. For Marty's survival, there are many factors. If he had died, the ritual would have been successful. If he had survived and didn't save Dana, the ritual would have failed. However, if he saves her, the rest of the events are able to play out. We will also ignore the odds that Marty gets dragged away in the first place. If he hadn't and been killed in some other fashion, the organization wouldn't have been taken by surprise from his sudden appearance. Therefore, I will only consider the odds of Marty surviving from the start of his encounter with Judah Buckner. He apparently had to dismember Judah with a trowel to survive. For each limb, we'll take a 1 in 2 that Marty is killed before he is able to successfully render Judah out of commission. Basically, this assumes Judah retains enough killing force to take out Marty until he is completely dismembered. The odds? 1 in 2 to the 4th power equal to 1 in 16. For the stupid gunman, the gunman had a single goal here: take out Marty at all costs. He failed because Dana got in the way. His approach was sloppy and confrontational for no reason. He could have hidden out of sight until he got a clear sightline on Marty or waited for backup. Assuming a 1 in 2 chance that he takes the immediate confrontation approach and that Marty is killed if he takes another approach, the section will simply be 1/2. For the stupid organization, what is the likelihood an organization harboring several deadly creatures creates a button that unleashes them on the organization itself? What's more, making that same button easily accessible and without protections like a passcode or key. Unfortunately for us, this is an established fact of the world and will not be considered. For the werewolf and Patience Buckner, we'll determine how likely it was for them to impact the final results. First, how likely for them to get to the pit room. We'll assume that each monster could have ended up in any department with equal chances. Along with the pit room, the observation room, and passages that lead between departments, we get finances, biomed, demolition, the chem department, electrical, operations, archives, wranglers, internal logistics, story department, psychology, digital analysis, data archives, communications, distribution, administration, engineering, research and development, kitchen staff, accounting, maintenance, and security and zoology. In total, that is 26 separate areas. By simplifying to a 1 in 26 for each monster, we are saying they could have ended up in each area equally, not that each area is responsible for covering the same square footage. Second, how likely it was for them to target who they did. If the werewolf had targeted and killed Marty, the world would have been saved, otherwise not. Therefore, a 2 in 3 for its target, and the same for Patience Buckner. The section total is 1 in 26 squared times 2 in 3 squared, which is equal to 4 over 6084, or reduced to 1 in 1521. Multiplied together, the odds become 21 over 34 times 1 over 80 times 1 in 16 times 1 over 2 times 1 over 1521 to get 21 over 132,387,840. Well, now we know if you were to travel to a random split with the exact same necessary initial conditions, the likelihood that you'd see these same events transpire and the successful outcome of the final event is 0.0000016%.